Hey y'all, Coach in the Fight here. I don't know, do I got Stacy with me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Alright, we're going to be talking about the sun this morning, the sun this morning. And I want to bring out some things that I didn't know about the sun. Like I always remind you guys, I am a student, of the Word. I just like to do my Bible studies online. But I want to bring out something about the sun this morning. And before I get started, I want to say that this goes along with what the scriptures say about how we should always look to the other religions to find out what truth they have in them. Apparently, all of the different various religions have a bit of truth that they're going to be able to add to this final product. It's like a puzzle, and we are given certain pieces to the puzzle. But if we want to see what the entire puzzle looks like, we have to go to other religions and other people with different beliefs in order to complete the whole puzzle. And I say that because, at one point in my life, I used to look at this group called sun gazers, or, people who would I guess, gaze at the sun, and I thought they were in error. And, and I only say that, to I don't know. What am I trying to say, Steph?
Just to let you know that that we're all learning. We learn from each other.
Yeah. So whereas before I thought these guys were, I'm gonna just say, I'm gonna just say an error for going out there and looking at the sun every morning. Turns out that's actually what we're supposed to be doing. And so even in that group, there's truth in that group. Something that that in my own belief systems I was lacking, but I can now go to that group and humble myself before them and maybe learn some of the things that they know. Talking about the sun gazers, and I'm not sure what they call their group. I just call them sun gazers or whatever because all I know about them. But apparently gazing at the sun or absorbing the heat from the sun is beneficial to humans. Now, I first noticed that in that movie. What was it? The Book of Eli, where every morning Eli would go out there and he would take time to let the warmth of the sun fall upon him. He wasn't necessarily looking at it as much as he was just letting that heat shine upon his face. And I was kind of wondering what was going on there. But as I read the third testament of the Bible, that's right, the third testament of the Bible, we find out how important it is to let those rays of light, that heat, fall upon you and what it does for you. So what this class is going to be about is what benefits are in welcoming the sun when it rises in the morning, talking about the sun. All right, so we're going to start up here looks like we're in chapter 11 of the third testament of the Bible, which is the work of Jesus on earth. And I'm going to read here at verse 80. He says, "Heads hanging, they presented themselves to me, saying, Master, pardon us. We have recognized the truth of your word. And I answered them, If you have found that I speak only truth, why do you hide? Do you not go out to receive the rays of the sun when it appears? And when have you ever been ashamed of the sun?" All right, so now from what I read out of this verse, and there's several more that we're going to talk about, but what I read out of this verse is that the guys of old at some point were going out and welcoming the sun. When the Messiah was walking the earth, he was challenging these Pharisees and these Sadducees, saying, "Don't you guys greet the sun when it wakes up when you wake up every morning?" But it's a practice that we've gotten away with. I know I've never heard of this in any church that I've ever been in, that we were supposed to greet the sun. I've only heard it from
What you consider pagan religions.
Pagan religions. But that was the only time I had heard of such things until I read this third testament of the Bible. But let's go on to the next one. All right, now we're going to get to some more interesting verses, kind of just going in order. But you look at this verse right here. This looks like it's up here in chapter 36, which is entitled Faith, Truth, and Understanding. Down here in verse 42, in the middle of verse 42, he says, "But the sun that shines brilliantly on them day after day has been a mystery to them." So the sun is a mystery to us. We don't recognize all of the power that is in the rays of the sun. And in this class we're going to learn a little bit about what those rays do for us. Let's go on. All right, here we're starting to get into the nitty-gritty of what this class is about. We're already down here in chapter, looks like 46, which is called The Badly Guided and Materialist Man. Down here in verse 49, he says, "Oh, if only all men wish to look upon the light being born into this era, how much hope there would be in their hearts. But they sleep, not knowing even how to receive the light sent to them each day by the sun. That first light, which is like an image of the radiant light of the Creator." Right? So it's telling us, even in this era, and talking about this time period that we live in now, how we don't recognize that we are, what does it say? Not knowing even how to receive the light sent each day by the sun. So this is something that the Father put there for us, not only to give us light, not only to give us food, not only to give us heat, but also to as a benefit for our bodies. But yet we people who think we're so wise and so smart in this time period don't even know how to go out and receive that light each day. Verse 50 says, "The sun caresses you and awakens you to the daily struggle without men who are insensitive to the beauties of creation, stopping for a few moments to thank me." All right, so talking about the benefits of the sun, it says it caresses us and awakens us to the daily struggle. So it's kind of like giving us strength, right, to help us with the things that we have to go through every day. And so you have people who are in depression, people who are going through things in life, people who are having struggles. If they knew that they can receive this power from the sun, imagine how their life will be better off if they was getting this power. It says, "The glory could pass them without them realizing it, for they always awaken preoccupied, forgetting to pray, to seek spiritual strength in me." So we jump up in the morning and we go on about our day, going off to work, going off to school, and the other places that we have to go. But we never take time to do what? First of all, pray and thank the Father for what He's done for us. That's important too. We'll take care of that in another class. But we are preoccupied, forgetting to even embrace that power that He's sending to us by way of the sun, that materialistic power. And I'm guilty of this too, guys. I keep reminding you guys I'm a student, and so I'm learning this stuff, and I want to share it with you because I think it's helpful. Maybe there's others out here that's unaware of this too. And you could actually take advantage of this, and we have people who, some of our family members are in the hospital and, other places where they or sick, and they may not have the ability to get up and go out and embrace this sun, embrace this power coming from the sun. And maybe we can help them out. Maybe we can, if they're in a wheelchair or whatever, maybe we can take time to stop by and push them out so that they can enjoy this heat every morning. And I'm sure we get a lot of benefits from doing such things. But look at verse 51. He says, "Nor do you seek energy for the material in the sources offered by nature." All right, so here we're seeing that some of the things out in nature are providing us energy. And the one that we're talking about now is the sun that is providing us with energy. He says, "All run around hurriedly without knowing exactly where they are going, and fight without knowing why, in that senseless, blind, and deaf struggle in which they have made their spirits materialistic and selfish." All right. So part of the reason that we struggle so much, part of the reason that we're running around and not knowing what to do, is because we're not praying and we're not benefiting from these other natural sources that's providing us with energy, right, to help straighten us out. We're not recognizing, the Father from which we come, or even recognizing his natural elements that are here to help us each day. You remember that nature is our little brother. Nature is actually here to serve us, just like everything else on the planet is here for our benefit. We have dominion over everything, including, the sun is here to serve us. But we have to remain within the law in order to benefit from that. And that's what this section goes on to talk about. Goes on to talk about the laws of the Spirit. But we'll cover that in another class. Hopefully one of these verses will point out how important it is for us to stay within the law so we can stay within nature. But again, we'll cover that in another class if it doesn't. Let's go on talking about the sun. All right, so here we are down here in chapter 53, which is the time of judgment has arrived, and we're looking here at verse 11. You guys can read all of this if you want to. This is the Third Testament of the Bible. When you see these numbers right here, what that's referring to is a certain teaching. You would have to go back to teaching number 323 and look at verses 19 through 22 out of the great book of life, and that thing is probably 10,000 pages long, and that's where these teachings come from. If you read the introduction of the Third Testament of the Bible, you kind of get an idea of where this information is coming from that we call the Third Testament of the Bible. But I put it up here so you can read this whole passage. It starts right here on verse 6, but this is a whole teaching. If you was to go back to teaching 323 and look at 19 through 22, you'd find the same part in there. But so go ahead and read here, and you can see what it's talking about. It's talking about ideas and doctrines and this war of the minds that we're going to go through, and the battles and stuff that we have to go through. Again, this is talking about the time of judgment. But down here in verse 11, he says, thus, just as each man takes freely for himself the necessary exposure of the sun upon his body, recognizing that in its light, its heat, and in its influence there is material life, so too shall they take from the light of truth as much substance, strength, and illumination of the Spirit as they need. All right, talking about the sun in particular, we find that the sun, in its heat and in its light and in its influence, there is material life. There's material life in the sun. So again, the people who have particular ailments or different things that they're struggling with, that may be something that will benefit from them just by going out and greeting the sun every day. May go a long way as far as helping them in their daily struggles. My wife, she's over there. You don't hear her too much. She's over there studying in one of her books. What book is that called, Stay?
Natural Remedies Encyclopedia.
The Natural Remedies Encyclopedia. Does it say anything about the sun in there?
Yeah. In this book, the Natural Remedy Encyclopedia, it talks about the 8 laws of health, and the second law of health is the sunlight on your body. And it goes back to when you were talking about how the Father put this here for us, not just for heat and for light, but it also is health for our body. In here, it talks a whole lot about it, but I'm just going to give a little bit of what it says, go over a little bit of what it says. It says, sunlight on the body dramatically lowers high blood pressure. It decreases blood cholesterol. It lowers excessively high blood sugars, and it increases white blood cells. It says it strengthens the heart, and it goes on to talk a little bit about each of these sections. Sunlight on the body calms the nerves and increases in adrenaline. one of the interesting things it talks about here is how people of color, blacks, Latinos, require more sunlight on their body for good health, more so than our white brothers and sisters.
What?
And it says blacks tend to have more jaundice, high blood pressure, tuberculosis, and diabetes, and we know that that is true. And it goes on to explain why when you don't have as much sunlight versus when you do have more sunlight, that this helps. Another thing it talks about is
well, that's really, really interesting. We talked about that earlier, how the people are struggling with illnesses and stuff. So what did it say? High blood pressure and diabetes and what else?
jaundice.
Okay.
You know, you think about that when babies,
They turn like yellow and stuff.
right.
So,
High blood pressure, tuberculosis, and diabetes.
it works with eczema and stuff like that too.
Yeah, psoriasis, eczema, acne.
Acne.
Right, these skin diseases are being treated with sunlight. It says how this goes on to tell how the sunlight purifies and removes the bacteria, and therefore like it goes in and those rays goes in and does something under your skin where it kills these germs that's on your skin, and it tells about that. One of the things that I wanted to mention is one of our twins was born with vitiligo.
Vitiligo.
And
Michael Jackson disease.
Yeah, and when we were taken back and forth to doctors till it got to the point where the doctor was like, well, just take makeup and cover the light patches, and
she barely mentioned out of the side of her mouth that if the sun would help him too.
Yeah.
And,
so we end up taking it into our own hands, of course, with prayer, and
put him out in the sun.
we put him out in the sun.
Take his shirt off and walk around outside without his shirt on and stuff like that. And now you can't even tell that he's ever had it.
Yeah. So the sun, unbeknownst to us, we just knew we were doing it.
Yeah.
That the sun was actually doing this for us. It said the sunlight helps heal wounds, and we know that, when you put a Band-Aid over a wound, it only just softens it and it doesn't do anything. I know my mom would say, take that Band-Aid off or take that covering off and
let it get some air.
But what it was happening, it was actually getting sunlight. So it just goes on to talk a lot about the advantages of the sunlight. We know that people who don't get as much sun in the winter time, it's not actually the cold, it's actually the sunlight. You're not getting as much sunlight, therefore your body is not fighting off or producing the things that it needs to fight off, because it also says that without as much sunlight, your immune system doesn't work as well.
Wow, so we get sicker in the wintertime.
We get sicker in the wintertime, yeah. It also said that people who, and of course, you guys, you have to check with your physician and all this other stuff.
No, you don't.
I want to mention this because we don't want to tell you to, well, you don't have to check with your physician to go out and get some sun. But the thing that I'm about to mention, it says that people who get out and get sunbathe have to be cautious as well, like if you have diabetes, right? Because the sun can lower your insulin so low that you have to remember also to account for this. So don't go and take the same amount of insulin after you've come from sun. Check your numbers. Make sure you check your numbers.
Because the sun could be helping you, and then you're not knowing it, and then you end up taking the same amount of medicine. Yeah, that's a good point. Lower it more so than it needs to be.
That's
equivalent if you was to start eating right, though. If you start eating right and doing all of that, and start exercising and all of that, you still have to come back and check your numbers, because you could be getting better and not need as much medicine.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, tell my mom who has diabetes
And your
that to
mom-in-law
yeah,
and your daddy-in-law.
right, to get out and get some sun, but because it's so powerful that it can even lower your insulin to as a replacement.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
so
I always like to talk about the tribulation and the post-tribulation period where we're not going to have as many of these high-dollar medicines, and so this sunlight maybe some of the only medicine these people are going to be able to get.
right, right. So
So it's important for them to know that now to learn how to take advantage of it, so that when our doctors start to fail us, we know of these other sources that we can go to and get healing power.
yeah, so do your own research, do your own research, do your own research, and I would definitely wish that you would take some time and study the benefits of the sun.
Well, that was a big help, Stacey. I didn't know all of that. That's great information. I'm glad you was able to add that to this.
So get out there and get you some sunlight, not just for the heat and warmth and the spiritual strength, but it's a health to your body as well.
Yeah, let's get out there in the sun, y'all. All right, if you got something out of it, go ahead and hit the like button. If you didn't get anything out of it, go ahead and hit the dislike button. Leave a comment either way and pray for us.
Shalom.
Shalom.